Locally, the Broome County IDA held a board meeting to get public comment on plans to turn the former Johnson City High School into a housing complex. The location will offer both 1- and 2-bedroom units along with a recreation space. An old gymnasium will be turned into a commercial space. The project will keep its historical value while blending it with the modern day in the 58 apartments. Mark Lane of the Lane Group, who is purchasing the property, says the RI grants from Johnson City will help make the project feasible with the requirements for historical preservation.
I think everyone knows Johnson City received $10 million in DRI grants, and they were kind enough to allocate a significant portion of that for our efforts, which makes the project economically feasible. Because we have hardships associated with restoring this back to historical standards, that goes with a cost. So without that grant, it would have been difficult to make the numbers work.
The Lane Group has requested a tax exemption of no more than $3,131,000. The sale of the building has not been officially made as of today.